Hello and welcome back to Football Kentron, the only English language podcast dedicated to Armenian football. Your host Aram here with the usual boys, Chadens and Armen. And today we are going to be jumping right into it as we have a very, very big European qualifying match, our first European qualifying match against Turkey in a few days' time from when this episode released. So the run of show today is going to be very simple. We are going to be talking about the Armenian squad, our lineups, and taking a look at the opposition and answering some of your questions. So jumping straight into it, gentlemen, let's get right to it. Alexander Petrakov called his first ever Armenian National Team squad that included a number of surprise picks and a number of debutants, which we are all very, very excited about. We'll first start with the goalkeepers that were called for the Armenian national team, which included Beglarian, Bushnev, and Nesesyan. This, of course, leaves David Yurchenko, our starting goalkeeper for the past 2.5 years or so, off, as he is no longer playing at the professional level, which was a really weird twist from this past month or so. In defense, we have our captain, Varazad Haroyan, Andrei Chalasir, Daron Voskanyan, Georgi Harutunian of Krasnodar, Nair Teknesian, Jirai Margarian, Kamo Hovanesyan, and Piloyan from Urartu. Stiapo Makirchan and Arman Ghazarian are injured and are in the reserve squad list. Petrakov said that they would have been called had they not picked up minor injuries and had a lack of play time in the past month. Jordi Monroy Ararat, who was included in the initial list of foreigners to be called up into the national team, did not travel as he picked up an injury in Independiente Medellin's Libertadores win. So he did not travel. Nair Tiknesian finally joins the Armenian national team after years, I think now we can say, Chadens, of us talking about it. He's finally here, along with a very surprising pick, 18-year-old Georgi Harutunian of Krasnodar, who we'll get into in a little bit. In the midfield, we have Garem Muradian, who gets his first call back up in a little over a year, Iwu, who gets his first call for the Armenian national team, and Ruvasarian, the under-21 player, who gets his first call for the senior national team. In the attacking midfield, we have Eduard Spertsyan, Lucas Zelarayan, Vahan Bichakchian, and Khoren Bayramian. Iwu gets his first call-up for the Armenian national team. He is Nigerian-born, but has been living in Armenia for about 6 years now, which actually makes him eligible for citizenship. He said he is very ready and very proud to be called up to the Armenian national team. Garem Muradian is deservingly back in the squad after playing very well for Ararat Armenia.
Captaining them as well, right? Yeah.
And captaining them as well. And Rubasarian, who is, I think, Armen's one of his favorites, and under-21 player, former captain of the Hamburg U17 team, is getting his opportunity to shine a little bit. And Lucas Zelarayan coming right back in after an excellent start to his MLS season, scoring a brace on his first home game in Columbus. In the attack, we have the left wingers of Norberto Briasco-Balakian, Edgar Babayan, and Jirai Shagoyan. On the right wing, we have Barserian, David Davidian, who finally is joining the national team camp after the third time being called up, Serobian. And then at the center forward position, we have Sargis Adamian, and we have Grant Leon Ranos of FC Bayern Munich 2, who has been on a roll this season and gets his first national team call-up. So, Chadens, I will start with you for this one. What are your thoughts on Petrakov's first squad for the Armenian national team?
Just maybe your better than expected, actually. Very attacking, very fast players, very young players, which is what we wanted. 1,000 times over the old squads that we read about. Quite exciting lineup we can have. It was hard to pick who is predicted to start, really. Some of the experienced players are there, and of course that's needed, that's necessary.
Yeah, so speaking of young players, we have Tiknizyan, we have Piloyan, who many
Yeah,
people I think were surprised got called up. He's a can play right back and center back, plays for Urartu, has been
yeah.
deputizing since Ghazaryan got injured, and I believe Urartu have gone on to they've been undefeated in 4 games, and they have not even
Clean sheets, I
conceded.
think.
Yeah,
Three,
4 clean sheets in a row.
four. So four
Four,
instead of three. Wow,
yeah,
okay.
4 clean sheets in a row. Um, Elsewhere, I think one place we can harp on a little bit is I want to know your thoughts on Ranos being called up.
I mean, that's the best news we received all week. I was falling on the floor when I finally got the news about that. I mean, we were expecting it. It was a matter of when.
Hmm.
But it shows that if a player wants to play for our national team and is willing to try and to do it, they will
Hmm.
do it. Tiknizyan proved the same in a different manner, obviously, but he showed the same. He wanted to play, and now he's here. Ranos the same, and let's see how he's gonna make an impact.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought up Tiknizyan. So even though Tiknizyan is young, um, he's what 22 years old. He has a lot of experience. He played for he's represented Russia in all the youth levels, even playing in the under 21 World Cup, where he actually scored a goal. He played with Arsen Zakharyan. The both of them, I think they got Russia out of the group stage and then lost in the first knockout round. But he's been, despite his age, plays for Lokomotiv, who they just played Krasnodar yesterday. He played against Eduard Spertsyan. Um, Very, very, very experienced for such a young age, and why I think he's going to be super important and probably slot straight into our lineup. Um, I want to know, Chance, a little bit more from you on your thoughts on this squad. So we have Serobian and Sharoyan, two Armenian raised players. I want to know how you think bringing in players like Ranos and Balakian, who's going to be coming from Argentina for Boca Juniors, how is it going to affect the development and play time of these players? Because now the competition, see, as you said, we have so much attacking talent. What do these people need? What do these players like Sharoyan and Serobian need to do?
That's a tough question. In terms of national team, they cannot do much, obviously, because there are a lot of games. But because this window has 2 games, Turkey and a friendly, not European qualifiers against Cyprus, my expectation is that the youngsters, maybe at least 75% of them, are going to feature for the Cyprus game, and possibly they're gonna play. They're gonna play as many minutes as they can. Hopefully, no injuries and these kind of things. That's what I'm trying to refer to. So they're gonna play. They're gonna play long. They're gonna play full games, hopefully. But against Turkey, it's a tough one. What they will be able to do. I guess in the camp they're going to show what they're capable of. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be the same. I think like I don't know if I don't know if Serobian is going to necessarily get a minute against Turkey. I don't think he will. I think
Hmm.
Sharoyan is a little more likely because despite his age, he is playing outside of Armenia. He's played for CSK Sofia, and he has been part of the national team for like a year and a half now. So I think someone like him is more likely versus David Davidian or Serobian or those types of players. But yeah, I'm really excited. Let me pitch this over to Anman. Interested to hear your thoughts on Petrakov's first squad.
Well, a lot to talk about. Really anticipated game. I think the ideal situation would have been under different circumstances, not coming off a year and a half of not performing well at all. But it is what it is. I guess it's a good opportunity as any, as good opportunity as any to change things, to change the face of the team, and and the enthusiasm of the fans, including yours truly. Uh, Hopefully, this time around, or starting now, from now on, things will be different with a win, but you never know. Overall, I think the squad is good. I mean, many more good things than bad things. I don't know. I mean, we're really gonna miss Yurchenko, of course, and proper homage should be paid after all this window, but that's a future problem. A good thing in defense is, aside from Georgi Artyunian and of course the big and Piloyan, but the big addition to the team is Nair Tiknisian, who we knew for 5 years that always wanted to play for us. And we mentioned time and time again, give him time, is doing the right thing, is playing it silent and smart. He's going to join eventually, and eventually it is. He's 23 years old and joining us just now, which 23 for a Russian-born Armenian is relatively young, and he can play both fullback or specifically left back and center mid. So we have at least 9 years of Tiknisian as fullback, left back, and another 3-4 years of him if he wants and if he's fit at center mid. So that's great. Like we have Tiknisian for over a decade. Uh, Pay close attention to Yerchani Kulbasaryan. I really rate this kid. Of course, he's not going to play against Turkey. Of course, like many of the call-ups, it's specifically future prospects. Like their friendly call-ups for the friendly game against Cyprus. I don't know, Piloyan, Yerchani Kulbasaryan, Nersesyan F he plays at goal. Who else? Of course, Rantranos, Iranosian, Georgi Arutunian, of course. All of those youngsters are going to be playing against Cyprus. Artur Seropian probably, but he's proven already, so he could play against Turkey off the bench or something. Ararat, Jordi Ararat is missing because of the injury, but funny enough, he's playing today as we record after the last injury that made him not travel, which is interesting. Um, Muradian will definitely be the first option in the center, in the middle of the pitch. Great attack. I really like this squad. I really do. Um, but again, it's going to be one team against Turkey and a whole different lineup against Cyprus. And let's see. Let's see what we get.
Well, that was interesting, Ottoman, as usual. We will move on to our next segment of this episode. We will be discussing the likely tactical approach that Petrakov will be taking against Turkey. Now, Chadens, we talk a little bit about formations for a second. Formations are things that look one way on paper, but don't necessarily reflect that on the pitch. I think, especially when you're talking about playing three at the back, people say three at the back, five at the back, 3-5-2, 3-4-3. It's all interchangeable. Petrakov favors a 4-3-3 formation, meaning he likes to play a flat four-back line, including two fullbacks. He plays an attacking variation, meaning he normally relies on a single central defensive midfielder to play anchor in front of the back line. And he likes to go all out with the rest of the attack. So my anticipation for how I believe Petrakov will play in this match is going to be pace. He is going to play the fastest players possible on the wings.
I hope.
And he is going to abuse that. Get Edo Spertsyan and Lucas Zelran on the ball and let them distribute to the wingers and go and play directly at them. The more direct you play against a team like Turkey, the better. I don't think we'll necessarily see a lot of crosses. I don't think because I think we don't have many target players, but it wouldn't surprise me if they mix it up and put in a cross. But I think the most of the attack is going to be direct dribbling and getting through players, winning those 1v1 battles, I think is probably what's going to happen.
My take on how Armenia should play and how Armenia should approach this. I think it should the game plan, our game plan should be similar to the 1-0 win against North Macedonia. The one that got us promotion to UEFA Nations League Division B. Um, why do I say this? Because I base our game plan on the opposition, and we're always going to be the underdog, especially in these games that are not Nations League. We're always going to be the weaker side for most games, and this is the case here. So, and North Macedonia is similar to Turkey, but slightly weaker. I assess Turkey as a slightly better, like one step above North Macedonia. With Macedonia, the Max were really dependent on Ali Filmaz. That's actually an ethnic Turk. That's a fun fact there for you. They were really overly dependent on him, and this Turkey team is overly reliant on Hakan Çalhanoğlu. So we need to neutralize Henos, Henrik Mkhitaryan's teammate at Inter Milan, best team in Italy, by the way. So this team struggles when they're without Çalhanoğlu. So and he's called up. He's gonna play. He's gonna pull the strings. So what we did against North Macedonia that worked for us was, smother Elmas. It was an organized defense. Two players on the mark, always at all times on their playmaker, in this case Çalhanoğlu, and cut the creator from passing at will, from pulling the strings, from and recover. Mark, tackle, bite, chew him off, chew his legs off. Not literally, but kind of. And once we do get the ball, not lose focus, not lose ourselves, keep our cool, and set the ball quickly and effectively to the front three or front four, but I don't think it's going to be a front four. I think, despite what I would like, I think it's going to be a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3 slash 5-3-2. I don't think we're gonna play our best tactic, but one can always be wrong. Either way, we need fast attackers. We need the ball quickly at their feet, uh, and whoever plays up front should be the fastest, quickest, fittest, and most defensive, efficient players.
Chadens, what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, I'm seeing how there's a bit of a difference with my predicted lineup. I hope it's pace. I really want to see that kind of game. I just don't. I didn't predict that it would be like that because of a specific element. Since Petrakov is new, I feel like he's going to start a bit with a safe mode, maybe, and then build up to it. That's why in my lineup I've got some players who have caps in the national team compared to some of the rest of the players.
Okay.
So I'm seeing 4-2-3-1 my formation.
And I think a last thing that Petrakov is gonna instill as part of his approach to this game is a strong mentality. I think given the circumstances of this match, everything going on with Artsakh, everything that has gone on, the history between Armenia and Turkish relations, the genocide, I don't even I don't think I even need to mention that, but because it's such an obvious, huge thing in front of our faces that we live with as Armenians every day, staying mentally strong is something that's going to be so important in this game. They are going to try everything to get us to crumble as soon as possible. Because if you look at us historically, even as early as our last competitive match, we had 2 players get sent off. That's why they're not here. Ovanes Ambarzumian, of course, missing from the squad because of a red card, and Artak Dashian, he got red carded in that game too against Ireland. So they know, the Turks know, by looking at us, they can say, if anyone can get under these players' skins, it's us. We're Turks. We can do it. They're going to use. They know that we are not as mentally strong as we should be, and especially against a team like Turkey, with players that can get under your skin, that are going to play very aggressive. I think Petrakov is going to make it a very, very, very important item to stay mentally strong. And I think if a player is not showing that mental stability, I think he will remove them from the game. I don't think he will hesitate to do that.
This part of the episode needs a specific concentration. 100%, I agree. 100%. Especially if the referee goes against us with some of the basic decisions and early in the game. This is really going to affect what you just said. It's really going to affect.
Yeah, and so it's going to be very, very important in. And even if we find ourselves ahead in the match, having the mental fortitude to not let that slip. And if we do concede a goal, don't let that feel like it's the end. I think these players are lucky that this match got sold out. It will be a packed stadium, and I think we will probably see the most passionate Armenian national team support we have ever seen, probably.
About the tickets, by the way, just to clarify, even for me, just for clarification, if you know, the away side that was supposed to be sold to the Turkish fans, but because of the ban, it's not happening. It's going to be full of Armenians.
I'm not sure about that, honestly. I'm curious myself to know. I'm assuming I've looked at the ticketing website, and if I recall correctly, I think they may have just sold that domestically. So I think it will be full of Armenians.
Because I got informed, because a Cypriot Armenian told me that he's going to be at the game, and he said he will sit. So if you're looking at the tifo, at the ultras, he's gonna sit on the left side. I don't know which part that is.
No, that's the opposite end of where the away section sits. The away section sits on the northwest corner of the stadium. So I don't know. I'm honestly not sure. I doubt the federation would let that stay empty, right? It doesn't make sense to have a whole empty section, no? And it doesn't make sense.
I guess we'll know at the game. So make sure you guys follow our stories.
There you go.
Make sure to follow our stories because we're gonna update you with news. Let's see. You'll see what we've got up for you guys. Anyway, moving on.
So we discussed the tactical approach a little bit and how we anticipate Petrakov to play. So now I'm interested, gentlemen, in hearing your lineups. Ottoman, we'll start with you. How do you anticipate Petrakov to line up versus Turkey?
Well, I arranged my ideal 11 based on a mix between the personnel that was called up, Petrakov's preferred tactics and play style, and Turkey's characteristics and traits. I would say, ideally for me, the lineup would be a 4-2-3-1, but it may not be that. Ideally, it would be Beklarian at goal, Teknisian, of course, at left back, right off the bat, starting on his first international game, his first cap. The center back duo in Çalışır, Andre Çalışır, the giant, and our beloved captain and emblem Varastat Haroyan. Off the right back, Gamo Vanessian, unfortunately, but he may do some damage. The interesting thing here is that Gamo usually, since he's a speedster, everyone knows by now, and he gives his all because he's not the best, the smartest time manager, and he doesn't know how to address his own physique. So he goes all in at every moment. So by the time every single window, by the time the second game comes, he's already tired and unfit and fatigued. So the good thing on this window is that the only game that matters and the only game he's going to be playing, to be fair, most likely is the first game against Turkey. So he may do some damage with his speed specifically. Center back to the center midfield duo in Garim Muradian as the more defensively inclined, Khoren Bayramian as the also a little defensive but more possession and passing game. Both will defend, but Horik will be the first pass for the midfield up. Edward Spertsyan, the GOAT, at 10. Off the wings, Tikran Barsekian, the Hulk, to the right wing. It's going to be an ideal game for him. This game is tailored for him. Of course, the Fenerbahce experience, Vardar, he played for Vardar and kicked out Fenerbahce out of Europe a few years ago with a goal and an assist for him. It was legendary. It was legendary. Unforgettable. Uh, and another, the other right, the left wing is going to be either Sako Adamian or Norbi Balekian, Norberto Briasco Balekian. Whoever is not the left wing will be striker. They could periodically switch with one another. It could also, however, be a 4-4-2. Again, same defense, same goalie, same personnel with Garim Muradian and Horik Bayramian as center midfielders or inside midfielders, and Edward Spertsyan to the left wing or left mid, and Tiko Baltekian to the right wing or right mid, and of course Sarkis Adamian and Norberto Briasco Malekian up front. The last time they worked together was in 2020. They were prolific. They understood each other really well. To be fair, they were both in really good form. The team was sinking, but I don't know. Maybe it can come to fruition again.
Controversial as usual, Armin, with your lineup picks. Charans?
Mine is, as I said before, 4-2-3-1 formation. We begin with Beklarian, who's having a great season at Urartu, with left back Tiknisian, Charlie Sear, center back with Haroyan, and on the other end, right back, Margarian. I'm not 100% sure where I would put Tiknisian and Margarian, but to go along with it, I went for Tiknisian left back and Margarian right back.
Okay.
With the midfield, since it's 4-2-3-1, the two will be Muradian and Spertsyan, even though I prefer Spertsyan to be more attacking than to be holding on to the ball and passing it to the wingers. Tico, Khoren, and Lucas will be in front of them. So they're going to be the three attacking midfielders, wingers, those type of players, with striker as Balekian, who's on very good form coming from Boca Juniors. Aram, your turn.
So I think we're going to line up with a 4-3-3, attacking. I also have Beglarian in goal. I think he's been doing really well for Urartu. League leaders, deserves to be starting. Tiknisian on the left, Haroyan, Kalisir, and I believe, not that I want to, but I think Kamo Hovanesian on right back is probably going to be the start. And I would play him there because of the aforementioned pace. I think if there's one player that you can talk about that has that on our team, undoubtedly, maybe his only quality, it's Kamo. And we have the issue with Kamo playing in defense, but specifically on the left side of defense, because he's not a left back, he's not left footed. And now that we have Tiknisian in this squad, I think it makes a lot of sense to have Kamo on the right, where he can interchange with the right winger, and I think it's going to be very important. In the midfield, I have Muradian as the defensive midfielder, with Spertsyan and Zelarayan a little bit ahead of him. And then in my front three, I have Balekian on the left, I have Adamian up top, and then I have Tigran Barsegyan on the right. The reason why I went for this is because it keeps a very pace-heavy front line that can interchange with each other, and we also have options off the bench that are full of pace. We have Bichakyan, we have Babayan, we have Shaoyan that can come off the bench, and all have so much quality that they can change the game, and they can be interchangeable with some of these players. You can bring on Babayan instead of Balakian. They're both tall, fast left wingers. You can bring on Shaoyan if you want instead of Zelarayan, and you can have another creative edge in the midfield. Or throw on Ranos instead of Adamian for his debut and watch my boy score and beat Turkey.
Oh yes, please.
That would be that would be a dream come true. Well, moving on to the opposition. Now we look at the Turkish side. Çağrı, walk us through some of their well-known players or top players for our listeners to look out for.
Yeah, they play in top leagues. I'm sure you've heard of them. I'm sure you've watched some of them, and you often watch them because one of them is Hakan Çalhanoğlu of Inter Milan, who is Heno's teammate. He plays in the center of the park. Again, we have another player in the Serie A, which is Meri Demiral of Atalanta. He's a center back. And alongside him, very likely who's going to be starting, is Çağlar Soyuncu of Leicester City in the Premier League. We've got in front of them Orkun Kokcu of Feyenoord, who if I'm not mistaken, they are on top of the league. Today they played against Ajax, today of this recording. I don't know how the result went. I don't know what happened, but another top player. Market value is very big. And another two notable names in the attacking front is Enes Unal of Getafe, who plays in La Liga, and the other player, again, well known, who used to play in Serie A and currently is he's playing in France at Marseille, is Cengiz Under. You've heard of them as well. So these are players who 90% they're going to start the game.
Yeah, it's undoubtedly Turkey has a lot of talented players. I don't think there's no question, and they are going to be led by their manager Stefan Kuntz, who is a German national who successfully led the German under-21 to a couple of trophies, similar to Petrakov. He has a winning pedigree in the youth level. He also led the German national team for 3 matches, I believe. It was some sort of interim role. His record with Turkey, he has 9 wins, 2 draws, and 3 losses, including a loss to the Faroe Islands 2-1 in the Nations League. They drew 3-3 to Luxembourg, but they also recently beat Scotland 2-1 in a friendly.
Yeah, these are recent games, just so you know. 2022 guys, just so you know.
This is their most recent matches, and it tells a little bit of a story on how Turkey play. I think they play up to their opposition, but then I think they also play down to their opposition, and that's something that Armenia can definitely benefit from. How we expect the Turks to approach this game is to be, as we mentioned, very aggressive. We expect them to play balls over the top and with a lot of crosses. In terms of formation, Stefan Kuntz favors variations of the 4-4-2, but as Çağrı noted before we started recording, that in the last 2 friendlies, he's been playing a 3-4-3. And taking a brief look through the Turkish squad, I noticed that they've actually called 6 central defenders, which leads me to believe, Çağrı, that you may be correct in he may play 3 at the back against Hayastan.
Do you think we can hit that?
You think would be better off if they play 3 at the back?
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Yeah, yeah. For us,
Interesting.
better for us if yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to pitch this over to Armin really quickly. How do you anticipate the Turks to play? We just talked about their two formations that Kuntz has used. We talked about their very aggressive style that we think they'll play, but just get into a little bit more specifics on this Turkish team and how you think they would approach playing against Armenia.
Turkey's game plan, Turkey's attack, as I said, they're overly reliant on Çalhanoğlu. That doesn't mean that there aren't any other players that can pull the strings and create on his place. Uh, they have Erkin Kökçü, they have all this other peasantler, all these other players. That means good players for those who don't speak Turkish. Um, Seriously, they have great playmakers, uh, but again, that was also the case against North Macedonia, and we were able on some games when the team was there and the brains were there. We were able to neutralize that. They rely a lot on those players and move the ball to the wings. They move it to the wings. They pass to the wings to the corner of the pitch, and then either filtered passes or low crosses, that kind of thing. They're gonna focus most of their play off the wings. They're gonna be passing left and right to the wings, and that way, like classic. It's pretty classic if you think about it. But if you neutralize the playmaker, most of the time they get frustrated. So that's when we gotta capitalize. Yeah, that's that's how I imagine they're gonna be approaching this game to the wings and try to hurt us that way. They also have very good crosses and in air game. Uh, they are really dangerous when it comes to headers, both in defense and offense. So and that's our weakness. So if you were wondering, uh, it's pretty much it like what they specialize in. We specialize like we're the weakest against, but that doesn't mean they're invulnerable or impossible to hurt.
Very interesting stuff, Armin. I'm just going to pitch this right back to you since we're on the topic. What are their weaknesses in their style of play? So you discussed it a little bit. Just go a little more in depth.
I assess Turkey's weaknesses to be few but very specific. There are ways to vulnerate this team. First and foremost is the mentality. They're a team that, uh, yeah, pretty much is easy to break psychologically. If they get frustrated, in a way, they're not that different from us. Uh, they're very psychological. Like if they're frustrated, you can tell. And fortunately enough, we got players that thrive in those kind of situations. As mentioned, Tigran Pazekian is a specialist on that area. Varas Tataroyan as well. Like he commands very well, and he can tell, he can feel the mood of the pitch, and that's one great thing I love about him. Then, of course, Edward Spertsyan, when he smells blood, he's gonna run at you and dribble past you because he knows you're gonna be weak and he knows you're gonna be able to tackle him because of mentality, strictly that. So we got the players to capitalize on Turks getting frustrated, but for that, it's gonna be key not to let them feel confident and not and frustrate them. For that, we need to cut Çalhanoğlu off the passes. take the ball off him, intercept his passes, that kind of thing. Another very clear weakness of them when it comes to defense strictly, they struggle a lot against moving defenses, against moving offenses and attacks, and fast and speedy and pacey opposition. And we have the personnel in attack, especially in offense, uh, again, to vulnerate them, to dribble past them, to throw the ball to the corners, like they do in offense. They have a really hard time defending the same game style they have in offense. That's kind of ironic, but interesting. We can do that. Like, it's something we can do. Uh, we can throw the ball to the corners and to the space, or low filtered passes to two quick number nines that should be, considering form and fitness, Saki Salamian and Norberto Bliasko-Valekian. Those are fast players. And if we have two up front, like we did against Romania, it's going to be very, very possible to score more than 2 goals on them, even, because they have a hard time against fast and pacey players. That's why I say, despite Zelarayan is really talented, he's magical, perhaps the most magical in the squad, bar Edward Spertsyan, the king. Uh, but again, Zelarayan is the slowest in the attack, so he should not play. Shahoyan should not play because he's lacking form. Same for Edgar Babayan, that he is kind of good in form, but not so much in fitness. He's not playing all that much. We need fast players. That's going to be the key.
Chadens, wondering what you think the Turks' weakness is. What can Armenia exploit? What style of play do you think best suits Hayastan as they try to break down this Turkish side?
Considering what you said with the 3-4-3, your predicted lineup, if it happens with the 4-3-3, and how Petrakov used to play at Ukraine with the specific kind of pressing that he did. I don't know how to explain it. Like in the videos that we watched, the way his team was doing is when there was like it wasn't specifically 1v1. Every single time they made it possible that it was 2 against 1. So 2 defenders were on 1 player. This kind of thing, if we try to shake them, this will be our good point on them.
Okay. Yeah,
If that makes
agree.
sense. Like in a way, it will be very useful.
Very useful. So the pressing, the teamwork, the communication, the pressing, the direct style of play that we had discussed. Yeah.
And this unit of pressing, the pressing as a unit, not just going on the player trying to grab the ball and doing whatever you think of.
Because this Turkish team can punish you. They like to take shots from a distance, just similar to how we like to do. And I've watched some tapes lately of how this Turkish team plays, and for once they break free from that press, or if the press is done incorrectly, they get into shooting positions outside the box. And when you have players like Cahanoglu, and Cengiz Under, who when he gets it onto his left foot on the top of the box, very similar to Vahan Bichakcan, gets it onto his left foot and he curls it into the top post. So the team needs to be very careful and very particular in how they press, because if you let them play a little too freely on the top of the box, they will punish you. And similar to us, I mean, we have a similar thing. When we were playing against Ireland, we've scored 3 goals against them. All 3 were from shots from outside the box. and because they gave us too much space. And when you give players like Spertsyan, Bichakjian, Shahoyan, Lucas Zarayan, Tico too much space, they are going to punish you for that.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to be very careful in our lead up. I think we need to be very direct. I think a player like Sagis Adamian is going to be very important as a focal point in the attack, not necessarily for scoring goals, but for distribution and hold-up play. When we're trying to counter, you're going to need someone who can hold the ball up against a defender like Demiral or Soichu, and the experience of a Sagis Adamian is going to be very crucial. Being able to hold the ball up and distribute it to an oncoming Tigran Barsegian or Balakian or Babayan or whoever comes up. So it's mental concentration. I think that's probably what it comes down to at the end of all this.
The discipline within you.
Oh, I mean, all I know is this is going to be a very, very intense game. We're going to be watching from all corners of the world. I will be at the Underdogs bar in Glendale, California. So if you're in the area, please drop by, watch the game there with us. It'll be the 10 a.m. kickoff Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, I don't know. This is probably going to be one of the most intense games, huh?
And it's good. We need this kind of energy in our lives.
That's true. We do. I don't know if I need the heart attack that might come with it. Well, that is going to wrap it up for our Armenia versus Turkey preview. We're not going to give predictions because we don't do that on this show, and we're notoriously terrible with them. But what we will do is answer some of your questions. We posed questions on Instagram and Twitter from our listeners, and we sourced a few of them that we will go ahead and answer now before we wrap up the show. The first question, Chanans, you can start with this one. What are the essential preparations for our games against Turkey?
Internal things regarding on the pitch, I think we said it already. Regarding external, obviously we cannot say because we're not there and we're not there at the trainings to be able to say. But from my experience in management and coaching for the last 2.5, 3 years, and from what I saw, today's videos, today's clips and stories on Instagram from the Armenian Football Federation, is that team spirit is needed. Right from the beginning, team spirit is needed. Imprint that on your squad, implement it, and move forward with that. I think that's what's happening already. Like I said, from all the clips that I saw, they're all happy, they're all shaking hands, they're all hugging each other. There's this kind of energy within the team, and this unit hopefully can bring an end result.
Yeah, and that question was by G. Kharayan on Instagram. Thanks, bro. The second question is, what are your realistic expectations for this round of qualifiers? That question comes from Baron Avahe on Instagram. Realistic expectations for this round of qualifiers, I think the only match we have competitively is Turkey. We of course play Cyprus in a friendly, but we're not going to harp on that too much right now. I think that's something we'll analyze after we watch the game and know the result. But I realistically expect a win versus Turkey. Not necessarily because I think we're better than Turkey, because I do think their team is better than ours, but we play better as a team. And when we play better as a team, that's where Turkey crumbles. I think their results against Luxembourg and Faroe Islands, granted the Faroe Islands loss was after they had already secured Nations League promotion. There is a reason why in world football, everyone looks at this Turkish team and says they are the most underperforming national team. Their expectations are very high. They had a lot of success in their early aughts, but since then, not so much. And there is a maybe there is a change on the horizon. Stefan Kuntz has come in and started playing really well, but then again, they do have these, you know, playing down to their opposition like Luxembourg and Faroe Islands, and you know, realistically, if we're talking about it, they are going to come into this match thinking we are far superior than this Armenian team, and that could play right into our hands.
Easily, they're gonna think that easily.
Yeah, so we have to take advantage of that. The earlier you can get a shock factor in, I think the better for us.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is from Jean-Christ128 on Instagram. And Jean-Christ asks, how many points would be enough to get out of the group? This is a very difficult question to answer because you have to look at a lot of hypotheticals. Our group involves Croatia, Latvia, Turkey, and Wales. Croatia was just the bronze medalist in the World Cup. You have a Latvian team that, sure, they're not good in general. I mean, Armenia is the better team than Latvia. There's no doubt there. But this Latvia team did get promotion from Nations League D to C, and they did so, and they played really well in their recent qualifiers insofar as they did not concede more than 2 goals to a game. So they're a very solid defensive unit. They just don't have the attacking prowess. And that's the type of team that we suck against. Wales, you know, Gareth Bale just retired. They're going through a lot of changes. They don't necessarily have, the squad is not as impressive as you would think, but they are a good team. They've played in a World Cup. And despite missing out on superstars, they still have a general level of quality that I would say is set pretty high. But they can't rely on those Gareth Bale to bail them out anymore, or Aaron Ramsey, who's getting up in age. They can't rely on him as much. So I think this is going to be a group where points are going to be taken left, right, and center. I think it's possible that we beat Turkey, and then I think it's possible that Turkey turns around and beats Croatia. To answer your question directly, I think 14 points, based on the mental math that I did with Chadens before we started recording. 14 points, I think, is the magic number. If you hit 14 points, I think that will be enough to clinch second place. But then again, I think that's very dependent on the Turkish team. If Turkey plays to their abilities, I think this group can be wrapped up and Croatia and Turkey can run away with it. But if Turkey continue to play how they have been playing for the past decade, which is the more likely option, I don't know. I think it's there for the taking. What do you think, Chada?
Very on point what you said. I don't think there's no need to elaborate more on that. It's very hypothetical. This is more of a prediction kind of question, like a guess kind of way. So it's hard to predict from now. But hopefully we can answer later with a good perception of our national team. Now it's kind of like a new squad, new faces, new this and that. So this is like a debut kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for your questions. I think we're going to try to incorporate listener questions a little more into our show. I think it's something that we want to do, and we want to make it a little more interactive. But I think that's going to be it for us. Armenia versus Turkey, Saturday the 25th. It's going to be a crazy game, and hopefully we'll have a very good start to our European qualifiers. I generally feel positive about this. I know the boys do as well. But let's see.
I do have some closing remarks. First and foremost, it's a huge game, but whether for the bad or the good, for better or worse, there's life after this. Team building is a process. Life is a process. Nation building is a process. So whatever the result, don't let it come to your heads and define who we are. We're so much more than that, and the future is bright. So let's keep on hustling. First game for Petrakov, so cut him some slack, give him time. Hopefully the FFA gives him more agency capacity than what they gave Caparros after the 18-month mark. Uh, so we'll see. Time will tell, and not just one season. We will know how things are after 2 seasons. Sometimes with the FFA, it feels like, or with Armenia in general, it feels like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we'll see. Looking forward to the Cyprus game, friendly, with a lot of debuts, a lot of youngsters. So that's going to be really interesting. A peep to the future, ladies and gentlemen. So
Let's see what
Yep.
happens. If you're in the area, LA, come to Underdogs. Watch the game with us there. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter if you don't already, and share the show with your friends. Keep a close eye on our social media in the coming days. We have a lot of cool stuff planned.
A lot.
A lot. So yeah, there we go. I think the next time you'll hear us, we'll be giving our thoughts on this national team window as a whole. I think we'll wait until after the Cyprus game to record, just so we can give a whole, A to Z, our thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Or if we get excited, we might record after the game against Turkey. Who knows? But
Yep.
that's
We'll
all
see.
for us. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll hear our beautiful serenading voices chanting and singing Armenian music after we defeat Turkey. All right, guys. Peace.
On to victory. Tebi Aktanak.